Coming to you from an undisclosed location somewhere deep in the heart of the Santa Monica Mountains, I am your intrepid host, L.A. Marzulli. Welcome to another episode of Questions with L.A. Folks, thanks for coming here. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, please do that. We're up to 225,000 subscribers. And I just want to thank and welcome all of you new guys and gals that come here. And, we do a lot of different shows. We do Supernatural Confrontations. We do UFO Update, On the Trail of a Nephilim, and, of course, Questions. So we haven't done questions in a while, and they keep piling up no matter how diligent I am to try to decrease the number. More and more come in. I promise you we will get to your question. And you can check that out by going to questions at lamarzulli.net, questions at lamarzulli.net, and we'll get into your question. But first, a word from our trusted sponsor. Have you ever wondered what happened to the legendary Chuck Norris? I recently saw a video he made and now he's shot. The man is in his 80s and still kicking butt and working out and staying active. So here's a true story. We lost a house in 2018 and we moved over to Thousand Oaks down in the valley. And it was culture shock. Peggy and I had PTSD. Anyway, there was a YMCA there and I joined it. There was a workout. There were 2 workout trailers, I believe. And the trailers were really good size, double wides. And they had all this workout equipment in them. I go in there on a Sunday morning and I start working out. There's this older guy in there with me. And I'm following him on the circuit as we're going around the machines. And I'm realizing that this guy is packing some guns up here. I mean, I'm doing one of these presses like this, and he's doing 40, 50 pounds more than my maximum weight. He's about my height. He's also got some paper in his hand. It looks like a script. So I strike up a conversation. And I go, wow, you're really lifting some heavy weights here. I guess, you've been doing this I've been doing this forever, blah, blah, blah. You're trying out for a part? And he kind of grins and looks at me and goes, yeah, it's a script. So we keep working out. I don't bother him anymore. And as I'm getting ready to leave, I go, hey, nice meeting you. Hope to see you again. Good luck with the part. Hope you get it. So this is a true story, folks. I'm walking out to the car and the light bulb goes off. Oh, my gosh, that's Chuck Norris. It's like, hello. And that's happened more than once. The bottom line is, this is true. This is no hype. He's in amazing shape. Okay, let's continue. What's even more shocking is he's stronger, can work out longer, and even has plenty of energy left over for his grandkids. He did this by just making one change. He says he still feels like he's in his 50s. His wife even started doing this one thing too, and she never felt better. She says she feels 10 years younger. Her body looks leaner, and she has energy all day. Chuck made a special video that explains everything. Make sure you watch it by going to chuckdefense.com/LA or by clicking on the link below this video. It will change the way you think about your health. Once again, that's chuckdefense.com/LA. Click on the link in the description below to watch the video now. You won't believe how simple it is. Just a reminder. The legendary Chuck Norris is a whopping 84 years old, and yet has more energy than I do. He discovered he could create dramatic changes to his health simply by focusing on 3 things that sabotage our body as we age. Folks, check this out. Please go to the description box below, chuckdefense.com/LA, www.chuckdefense.com/LA. This is from a woman by the name of Lori. I have a question which has been bothering me for a while. I have Rh negative blood, and I have wondered where that came from. I have heard that aliens, which I do not believe in aliens, they are demons. I watched a video last night that said it is possible that this bloodline comes from the Nephilim. Why would there be a bloodline that would go after a baby inside a woman if that baby does not have negative blood and it is the second pregnancy? Thank God they have medication for that now. I've wondered for quite a while on this. Okay, here's my take on this, Lori. First of all, thanks for reaching out and asking the question. I would say this, and this is conjecture on my part, that these entities, these intruders, as Gary Stearman likes to call them, maybe they have more success with creating the hybrid beings with women, human women that have Rh negative blood. Now that's just conjecture. In other words, in no way am I saying that Rh negative blood is somehow tied back to the Nephilim. That's a huge leap, huge stretch, very much of a slippery slope. Can't go there, in my opinion. What I can tell you is this, that maybe, underline the word maybe, the reason for this is it's more simpatico with a human. In other words, when they create a hybrid, it's more simpatico with a woman, human woman, that has Rh negative blood. Before I leave this topic, I have to say this. This is the deep end of the pool. There's absolutely no doubt about it. This is the deep end of the pool. And this is my first answer, question and answer today. This isn't for the faint of heart. There are people, well-meaning Christians, who look at all this and say it's impossible, it's not happening, it's all demonic delusion. I push back against that narrative, and I think it's a false narrative that they're putting out, because there is a physicality to it. It is the days of Noah. There is a breeding program. I remember asking Chuck Missler, what about the hybrids? And Chuck said, Satan's outnumbered 2-1. I was just on a radio show recently, and this woman asked me, well, what's the purpose of the hybrids? And I said, well, the dragon, Satan, is outnumbered 2-1. She said, well, are they walking amongst us? Are they here? Well, read Dr. David Jacobs' book, Walking Amongst Us. Here's a secular guy that's been in this for decades telling us that they are walking amongst us. So while you got people out there saying that there's no physicality to the phenomenon, I take umbrage with that, because that goes against the people who have been taken, people who have been implanted, people who have been kidnapped and raped. Watch our film on abductions. It's the 4th film in our ongoing UFO series. Shameless plug, you can get all 10. We got great deals on the, here I go, leaping into a sales pitch. But honestly, there are 10 films in the UFO phenomena. There's the new book, Rungs on Disclosure. We've got Christmas packages, lamarzulli.com, lamarzulli.com. But I digress. So I was on a show with this woman, and she said, well, what are the hybrids for? And I said, well, the dragon, the Nakash, the Shining One, Satan, is outnumbered 2-1. And so he's trying to produce an army. An army for what, she said. And I said, well, the army will be used in the Battle of Armageddon. And then she countered and said, well, I've been there. It's not that big of a valley. Well, I've been there too. You can put a lot of people in that valley. And you remember, the rider on the white horse comes down. Let me just say this. I do not have all the answers. Nobody has all the answers. I mean, we don't. We see through things dimly. We get glimpses of things. We try to put the pieces together. Same thing in prophecy. A lot of folks have been saying that we're looking at the formation of Ezekiel 38, 39. I am certainly guilty of that. I don't think it's over yet. I think Israel will go in and clean out the rest of Hamas. That's conjecture. I think Hezbollah soon will retreat behind Militani. Maybe things in Ukraine and Russia will calm down. Iran will lick its wounds until the spring. Kings go to war in the spring. This is conjecture. I don't think we're out of the woods yet, but I digress. Anyway, let's continue. This is from Melody. Hey, LA, I appreciate your unique work. Can you direct me to your biblical explanation of why you and Timothy Alberino believe there were thousands of years of Earth life prior to the Genesis creation account? I don't subscribe because I can't afford to subscribe to every ministry that I have an interest in. Sorry. And why do creation scientists such as Ken Ham not mention this as far as I know? If you decide to address this in one of your shows, I sure hope I don't miss it, although I'm sure you have addressed it sometime prior. That's from Melody. Okay, so here's the deal. This is a young Earth. What I mean by that, get this now, this is an old Earth, but this is a young Earth. Something happened very cataclysmically before the recreation. Now, people can argue that till the cows come home. I do not believe in the 6,000-year model. I think we need to push it back to at least 10 or 12,000 years. People can argue that till the cows come home. The bottom line is this is a very new creation. The planet that we see now, very new creation. Read G.H. Pember's Earth's Earliest Ages. Something cataclysmic happened to this whole thing. There was a war in heaven. This is why some people say, well, Satan's created on whatever day it is, and then he leads a host of angels and they rebel. I'm not buying that for a minute, folks. You just don't get created and then rebel against your creator. This goes way back. Who knows how far back it goes? And we don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. But it seems to make more sense to me. Okay, you can disagree with it. That's fine. It's not a salvation issue, but you can disagree with this. But this is what I hold on to. The earth was created, the universe, this whole deal was created, and the fallen ones were in control here for whatever reason. And I don't have an answer to that. Did the dragon create the dinosaurs? Very interesting. Why not? I mean, we don't know. All we know is that something very cataclysmic happens. There's this revolt in heaven. A third of the angels fall, and then the earth was without form and void. Then there's a recreation. In my opinion, what we're living in now, is a recreation. Adam and Eve are set in the dragon trap, as Gary Stearman likes to call it, because he knows he's going to lure the dragon in. This new creation, man, because man was not created before Adam and Eve. They just weren't. We're made in the image and likeness of God. How does that work? And that's a 3-hour discussion. Gary Stearman taught me this. This is the dragon trap, because the Most High God knows if he sets Adam and Eve here, he'll lure the dragon in, which is exactly what happens, and he traps them by saying this in Genesis 3:15, looking at the dragon, because the dragon has just violated the protocols of the heavenly war. What are those protocols? We don't have all of them. We get glimpses of them, but we don't have all of them. We get the protocols like in Job, where it says you can do this, but you can't kill them. That's a protocol. That's a boundary that's set. The dragon cannot cross that line. So with Adam and Eve, there were boundaries set that we're not told. That's conjecture on my part. But the boundaries are there. The boundaries are there. The dragon oversteps his boundary. This is why the pre-incarnate Christ, the theophany, appears in the garden. Adam and Eve are terrified. They're over here. The dragon's over here. And Jesus says to the dragon, to the Nakash, the shining one, to the serpent, your seed, your offspring will be at war with the offspring of the woman. Now, I was on a show recently, and in the feedback, it was posted on YouTube. In the feedback, I was accused of being a false teacher. Well, if I'm a false teacher, tell me where I'm going wrong, because I believe in the seed war, and that's where some people will say, oh, you believe in the seed war, you're a false teacher. It's right there. The seed, the offspring of the dragon, will be at war with the offspring of the woman. Look it up for yourself. Genesis 3:15. Folks, it's a seed war. And unless we come to grips with the Genesis 3:15 narrative, we are clueless for the rest of the Bible. Does that make me a false teacher? Not at all. That's why Jesus points us back to the days of Noah. What differentiates the days of Noah? The presence of the B'nai Ha-Elohim, the fallen ones. Are they coming back? You bet your booties they are. In fact, I don't have time to get into this, but that's why we created the 10 films on UFOs. So I hope that answers your question. This is from Susan. Hey, LA, loved your book since the first novel. I was reading a book which had abductions, may have been taken by Carla Turner. The alien said to the abductee, we have the right. Do you think that means because of Adam losing Earth, or that governments allowed them to abduct people? Both. They have the right, they had the right until the cross. And then Jesus redeems it with his blood. And yes, I believe governments made a quid pro quo. They gave our government, the technology, access to the population. We've heard this before. Can I prove that? No, I cannot. But that's what I believe is going on. Also, you got to remember this. This is just like what the book of Enoch tells us, where there's this quid pro quo, where these fallen angels come down and they show mankind, for instance, the 18-and-a-half-year lunar cycle. That's why it was handed to men. They show mankind metalworking. You see, we've got this truncated view of the supernatural. So in the book of Enoch, it talks about metallurgy. Fallen angels are engaged in metallurgy. Think about that, folks. They teach it to mankind. What are we looking at here? See, we have a truncated view of the supernatural. We think these entities are all wisps and phantoms, and there's no physicality to the phenomena. If they teach mankind metallurgy, that is physicality. If you were going to keep one book away from the people, you keep the book of Enoch away from the people. And you never tell them what Genesis 3:15 means. Anyway, that sounds like a conspiracy. Let's walk through this for a second, okay? This is really important stuff. So in the 4th century, the church uncouples from its Judaic roots. Let's put it that way. Augustine comes in, the supernatural is downplayed, everything is allegorical, metaphor, and we go into the Dark Ages. For what, 1,000 years? You would be burned at the stake, punished by death if you read your Bible. So the church goes in, the Western church anyway, goes into what I would call the Dark Ages. In 1444, Gutenberg invents the printing press. Tyndale translates the Bible in English. He's promptly burned at the stake. See where I'm going with this? You get the Protestant Reformation, right? So you've got this 1,000 years of Dark Ages where no one even knows what's in the Bible except a few priests. No one's talking about it. You have Catholicism, which is rites and rituals, which completely uncouple from the salvation of Jesus. Things like purgatory are just invented. Mary worship goes through the roof, and all of a sudden you get the Protestant Reformation. The Bible is translated to English. For the first time in what, over 1,000 years, the common man can read the Bible. So this is where you get Darby coming up with, oh, Darby invented the rapture. No, he didn't. He had access to the scriptures for the first time. I have access to the scriptures. Now get this. If you were going to keep the people in the dark, this is what you do, all right? And here's the analogy. Go back 150 years. The colleges, the universities of Harvard and Yale were bastions of Christian thought. They were bulwarks of the Christian worldview. Not so anymore. How did they go from one paradigm to another in 140, 150 years? Very simple. Very simple. You've got people that were alive and are alive today who don't want the Christian narrative preached. They don't want people to understand what's going on. So they infiltrate. They infiltrate. I'm not making this up. Look at the school system, for crying out loud. They infiltrate. And they place very liberal professors at Harvard and at Yale. And pretty soon, the whole needle goes like this to now, at both of those universities, they no longer are bulwarks of Christian thought. They're just not. Same thing goes for the seminary. All you do is you tell your seminarians, people coming up wanting to be pastors, you never, ever talk about the seed war. You keep them blank and untaught in the ways of Genesis 3:15. So when they get to Genesis 6, you insert the Sethite theory, which, by the way, was invented around the 3rd, 4th century. The Jewish people living in Israel before the diaspora, before AD 70, before the final stroke of annihilation, the Bar Kokhba revolution in AD 30, 135, and that means no Jew is allowed in Jerusalem till Helena comes in the 4th century. That changes everything. But get this, they all knew what was going on. They knew what the days of Noah were. They knew the seed war. Josephus writes about it. The Nephilim had countenances so strange and so foreign to men that they were fearful and to the sight. And their voices would make men tremble. Remember Joshua and Caleb going to the Promised Land. Who were there? Nephilim tribes. Oh, we saw the Anakim there. We were like grasshoppers in their sight. This is the key to the entire biblical narrative. And people knew it. In Jesus' day, when Jesus goes to be like the days of Noah, no one's going, well, I'm not sure what that means. They all knew exactly what he was talking about. Why does Jude quote the book of Enoch? There's a lot of detractors online that will say, well, Jude, blah, blah, blah. Can't really be. Jude knows the book of Enoch. Jude is Jesus' half-brother. That means there's a really strong possibility that Jesus read the book of Enoch. Why not? It's found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Jude quotes it. And what does that do? It opens up the whole days of Noah. Enoch 1. It opens up the whole deal. So look, you can poo-poo that and say, well, it's not part of our canon and get all religious on me, or we can at least appreciate its historicity. Anyway, I went down a huge deal on that. So yes, I believe that governments, there's a quid pro quo. The abduction phenomenon is real. It's in number 4, Karen Wilkinson's book, which, by the way, we did an interview with her with Gary Stearman, myself, Gary Stearman, Karen Wilkinson, and myself on the set of Prophecy Watchers. It's got a lot of views. Check it out. We sell the book. You can buy it from Prophecy Watchers. It's on Amazon. It's all over the place. Stolen Seed, Evil Harvest. Need to read that book. Okay, this is from Brenda. Hey, LA, I cannot find these DVDs in your store. On disclosure is eminent. It's this. It's not a DVD, it's a book. Rungs of Disclosure. And that's doing really well from what I understand from our publisher. How do you think the vehicles which are composed of super materials are brought into our dimension? Thank you for making time to read my email. I am currently reading your book, Rungs of Disclosure. Thank you, appreciate that. I have several questions that I want to ask you, but I will, for respect of your time, limit this time to just one question. How do you believe, and at this point understand, that metal or other material, vehicles, and beings are moved into our dimensions from their original place of existence? I have other questions, but that's it for now, and that's from Ken. All right, so here's the deal. And I get this all the time from people. Why do fallen angels need craft to come in and out of our dimension? I don't have all the answers, and I'm not trying to dodge the question, but I will say this. Is it possible that the craft is there as an interdimensional entity, as an interdimensional vehicle to go from one place to another, to go from a second heaven to here? Okay. But are they constructed for another reason? Are they really constructed because this is the deep end of the pool, this is conjecture, all right? It's conjecture. Underline that word, deep end of the pool. Think about this. The demons are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. The Nephilim are the progeny of fallen angels and human women, creating a hybrid being known as the Nephilim. We know from the book of Enoch and from our Bibles that the flood of Noah wiped everybody out. The disembodied spirits of the Nephilim are the demons that wander the earth. I make a very strong differentiation between fallen angels and demons. Fallen angels can appear as angels of light. They do not need bodies to physically manifest in our dimension. Demons do. A demon needs to possess an individual, an object, or an animal in order to manifest in this dimension. So this is conjecture. Is it possible, two things possible, that the enemy, and you can read Karen's book because Karen and I have talked about this, and she's been on board countless times, taken by them, as well as other people. So I'm not making this stuff up. There is a definite physicality to this phenomenon. Understand this. The grays are meat suits. The grays are biological constructs for the demons to inhabit. I'll tell you a story. Years ago, when I was working on the Nephilim trilogy, it's a fictional work, available in our bookstore, lamarzulli.com. So I was studying all this stuff about the grays and stuff, and I talked to the late David Flynn. I called David up and I said, David, let me ask you something. Is it possible that the grays are meat suits, biological constructs? This would explain why the deliberate crash at Roswell. And David said, yeah, that's what I think too. Now, David's no longer here and he passed away years ago. I wish I had that thread of email and I wish I had recorded that conversation. Back then, there was no Zoom, okay? This is in the 90s, and I called him up. And this is probably right after the book was published, Nephilim, but you know, that was the connection. Once the book was published, David contacted me and we became friends. And I want to thank his twin brother for coming on the record in one of our UFO films also. That was a great honor for me. I wish David was here with us. In my opinion, I believe they took him out. Now, that's a subject for another time. But you need the grays as worker bees. During an abduction, it's the grays who show up and take the human being out and into the ship. The ship is used to transport a human being from point A to point B. Case in point, Al Matthews in one of our films, I believe it's the very first film in the UFO series. Al talks about driving home. He knows he's about to be abducted. As I've talked to other abductees, they can tell. It's a physical sensation, and it scares the heck out of him. So Al's driving. All of a sudden, he wakes up 5 hours later in the most brilliant white light that you've ever seen. His car is being lowered like this onto the road in this beam of light. He knows he has been violated. He has wet himself. This is horrific stuff. The car, and he's also got 5 hours of missing time, and he's about an hour and a half, 2 hours from where he last was by car. He's like miles away. That's what happens. So these craft transport the abductees because the whole purpose of the person being abducted is to create a hybrid being. The days of Noah. This is why once again, Genesis 3:15. We don't understand Genesis 3:15, the seed war. When I start talking about this at the deep end of the pool, people go, oh my gosh, why should we be surprised? Daniel 2:43 says this, and this to me is a slam on the mat. This makes any opponent tap out. What does this mean? Their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave to them. Jim Williamson taught me the word cleave means what we get back in the Genesis 6 marriage contract. There is no marriage contract. Get that? They take what they want. They basically, you're kidnapped and you're raped. We've heard this over and over again. They're not, in my opinion, some friendly space brothers from Zeta Reticuli or Epsilon Eridani. No way. Going back to the very first abduction with Betty and Barney Hill. They're terrified. Karen, she's terrified. Karen Wilkinson, Stolen Seed, Evil Harvest. Must-read book. Must-read book. Karen will be speaking at the Prophecy Watchers Conference. I'm going to give her 5 minutes along with Vicki Joy Anderson, her book, because we're going to be talking about the physicality to the whole UFO phenomena, talking about implants. This is my topic at the Prophecy Watchers Conference. Yes, rungs of disclosure. I will be talking about that in great detail. But we'll be talking about the UFO phenomena and specifically the physicality of it. We'll be talking about material gathered from craft. We'll reference Luis Elizondo on Tucker Carlson. We'll reference David Grush, and there's going to be some overlap here because Grush says we've retrieved crash. We've also retrieved non-human biologics. That's physicality. We'll be talking about implants. We'll be talking about the material that we got from Roswell. You know, we're not making this stuff up, and it's really important. So I hope to see you there at the Prophecy Watchers Conference. I believe it's sold out. It's a great roster of speakers. I'm honored, of course, to be there. And right after that, on Monday, we'll be driving over to Skywatch TV and doing a film or talking about rungs of disclosure and, of course, the 10-box UFO set. Folks, that's all the time I have for today. I'm going to do another episode of Questions with LA. So stand by and check it out. Maybe it'll be here tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching, folks. Really appreciate it. Go to our store. You know, when you guys go to the store and you buy one of our products, it keeps the lights on here. And it lets me know that we're doing the right thing. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. God bless you all. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you soon.